Okay, guys, let's review as always. And actually, I'll just go all the way up to the top so we can review de una vez. We're going to read the questions mindfully, okay? What is the goal in the scenario for the teacher or for the student or for the district? In the scenario, what is the true goal? What is the question asking us in layman's terms? What keywords and phrases are red flags that we need to pay attention to? And I say red flags because the devil is in the detail. And we know that just by one word being there, it changes the entirety of the question. Like we did one last week, and because it said the word backgrounds and not proficiency levels, I changed my answer. Like I was 100% sure now as a result of that difference of language. Had it said proficiencies, A would have been a better response, but it didn't say that. So keywords and phrases, keeping those keywords and phrases in mind as you, very sort of like in a due process type way, each answer choice you are weighing against your keywords and phrases. Does this answer choice do the things the goal said it needs to do? And does it address the special populations? Does it happen during the time period with which is set forward? If they say before, during, or after a lesson, it matters. We do different things before, we do different things during, and we certainly do different things after. So here is a running list of our super secret questions, and we are at question 28, I believe. So that's where we'll begin today. And let us see. So we have a 6th grade science teacher using a discovery investigation to teach a lesson on simple machines. The primary benefit to this type of instruction is that so we have a 6th grade science teacher using discovery investigation to teach a lesson on simple mechanics. Now, what's important here? What's the goal? What are we looking for? Tell me, guys. Unmute yourselves.
Well, it's 6th grade.
6th grade, excellent. If there's an age group or grade level, we certainly are not going to ignore it. We're going to pay attention to it.
They're using discovery investigation.
Discovery investigation. Now, what does that mean in layman's terms?
I would imagine to do research on
So
a
you can
certain.
explore different varieties.
Thank you. You said a good word. Explore, to discover, to play, to investigate. They're doing something in this process that's supposed to teach them about simple machines. Now we're looking for the primary, the first like the main benefit, right? To this type of instruction. What type of instruction? Discovery investigation. So let's take a look. Develops content mastery through repetition. B, ensures specific learning objectives are met. C, addresses a variety of learning styles. Or D, provides active learning opportunities. So remember, we have to weigh all of them against what we identified. We said discovery investigation is what it is. What is the primary benefit? Meaning there might be multiple benefits, guys. There might be a secondary benefit, tertiary benefit, all the way to the words that I don't even know to say the types of benefits that there would be to discovery investigation, which there are. We're looking at the primary. What's the main benefit? Now, what can we very sort of confidently say? This is not why we would do this. This is not the main benefit. We can bet ourselves $5.
See?
Addresses a variety of learning styles, although it might, right?
Correct.
Maybe not A.
Right. So develops content mastery. So they're going to master science through repetition of discovery investigation. Like that's not something that is sort of said with discovery investigation is very organic, right? And so it's not like kids, even the way that they do different class periods, the way that they engage in different students within the class period, the way that they engage in discovery investigation is going to be different, and they're going to go their separate ways because they're all different. So no, that's not going to be the correct answer. So we're left with B and D. Ensures specific learning objectives are met, or provides active learning opportunities. Now, I will draw your attention again to the keywords and phrases. We have 6th grade discovery investigation, which we said discovery means like you are doing, or what was the other word we said?
Explore.
Exploring. And so what is a better description to the primary benefit you would get out of this? That all learning objectives are met, or that active learning opportunities are present?
So I really did not know what discovery investigation was, so I did look it up. I'm so sorry.
No, not
But
at all.
it does say here that students are encouraged to construct their own knowledge through a self-direct learning process.
Right. So it provides it provides active learning. They're directing it because they're investigating it, going this way. And if it's set up, it works wonders, and it's amazing. Like, it really just is. You can't, I mean, it doesn't ensure, that's not the primary benefit. Yes, will objectives be met? Yes, they will. But the primary benefit is that in a discovery investigation, all of them are active learners, all doing things. It's hard not to be active when you're doing something. And since they're all active in this discovery investigation, it provides these active opportunities for learning. So good job, guys. All right, here's another one. We have a teacher is planning an instructional activity for a culturally diverse 9th grade class. The teacher wishes to ensure that the activity will be effective in promoting all students' learning. The teacher can best achieve this goal by asking himself whether the activity he is planning does what? Let's go back up. Let's pump our brakes for a little bit and go back up and read keywords and phrases. What is important for us? What is the goal here? What are we looking at?
It's an instructional activity for a cultural diverse 9th grade class.
Culturally diverse, right? And it's 9th grade. So we have that secondary. And what is the goal?
To ensure that all students are learning.
All students are learning. The promotion of all students learning, the culturally diverse and everyone in between, right? What is the best way? When they say best, most, it's because they might have given you more than one reasonable thing that you would do, but one is better based on the specifics that they give us. And so we have the specifics of a teacher planning an instructional activity, for culturally diverse 9th graders. And we want to make sure that we are effective in all students learning, the promotion of all students learning. How do we best do that? Let's take a look. Uses an instructional format that is likely to be familiar to all of the students in the class. B, occasionally includes identifiable elements from the cultural groups represented in the classroom. C, offers students maximum flexibility in determining how they wish to accomplish intended learning goals. D, is accessible and meaningful to students with varied life experiences and background knowledge. So the question is, what should he ask himself about the planning of his activity? If it uses, what's most important? Best achieve this goal by asking himself whether the activity he is planning, which of these would be most beneficial to helping this class of 9th graders achieve their goal, learning for all, promotion of learning for all. What can we pretty safely eliminate, guys? Bet ourselves $5 that's not the answer.
I think we can remove A.
Yeah, it uses an instructional format that is likely to be familiar to all students in the class. Like, I don't even know what that means. Like, multiple choice, instructional format, teacher directed. I'm not sure, but this is not going to make sure that everyone, a formulaic way without any sort of scaffolding, without differentiation, is very unlikely to be successful. So I would say pretty safely we can eliminate A. What else might we exclude and say, this doesn't go with our goal? We're looking to support culturally diverse ninth graders to make sure learning for all takes place. And that, as a question, as I'm planning this, I'm going to ask myself, which of the following things, or I should think of which of the following things.
I would think C, you can eliminate.
I would say so too. It doesn't even have anything to do with what we're talking about right now, these intended learning goals and making sure promotion of of learning for all students. It's not doing that.
Or you're
This is-
kind of
this
letting the
is how they
students
wish.
determine.
So which of these seems better? Occasionally includes identifiable elements from the cultural groups represented in the classroom, or is planning that it's accessible and meaningful to students with varied life experiences and background knowledge. If you could only pick one, which sounds best?
D.
D.
D does. What is this occasionally nonsense? Like this occasionally business? No,
That word threw
every
me off.
day. Yeah, you are trying to make connections. If you have diverse groups, you're trying to bring in background knowledge, trying to find accessible ways of creating connections between what they already know and what they are learning. So this occasionally it is not and this includes identifiable. So like if I'm from Mexico, you just brought in like the Mexican flag, but this is accessible and it's meaningful. Like it means something and connects to other knowledge, right? Background knowledge to the knowledge that they're learning. That's how we get them to move forward. Good job, guys. That was a hard one. Which of the following is an appropriate and clearly written learning objective for a US history teacher to incorporate when designing a lesson? Now, I say this to all of my students for the PPR and for the trade and industrial PPR. It's not about the content area when they give you one of these scenarios. We don't have to know anything about US history to answer this question correctly, if we know anything about learning objectives. So let's take a look at the question. What are they asking us? What is important for us to know? What's the question? Learning objective, right? And we're looking for appropriate and clearly written. So let's take a look at the following and see which is correct or not. A, students will celebrate the effects of the American Revolution in America and Europe. B, students will see how the American Revolution helped shape the country. C, students will explain the major events that caused the American Revolution. D, students will realize what led to the American Revolution from the perspective of the colonists. Now, before we blurt out the correct answer, what do we know is completely wrong, or we can bet ourselves $5 that is not an appropriate or clearly written learning objective for any teacher? I threw this question in here because I thought you guys needed a review of learning objectives. How do we measure learning objectives, whether they're appropriate or clear?
I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
Not at all. Which do you think like draws you to like, let's do with elimination first, not what jumps out as good, but what, this one seems wrong and bad.
Well,
Would it be A?
A.
Okay, A, students will celebrate the effects of the American Revolution in America and Europe. And so I could, pretty safely say that is not, it's silly. But how are you going to measure? Like, we only write objectives if we can assess them. How does one assess whether or not they have mastered this learning objective that students will celebrate the effects? And so, no, first of all, it's not appropriate because it just isn't. And then we also can't measure it with an assessment. So we don't do ever learning objectives that we aren't able to assess. So I could pretty safely say that A is out for sure. What else?
So would C be the only one you can really assess?
C is the only one you can assess. Absolutely. You cannot assess. Students will see how the American Revolution helped shape the country. Like, you can't assess that. Like, are you going to just show them a video and give them 100, or do they have to like do a particular, I mean, you just can't, this is a not clearly written because you don't know how, in fact, they will be measuring them. Here, I could think of a number of ways that this particular teacher might measure their understanding or their abilities to explain the major events that caused the revolution. So a learning objective is only appropriate or clear if it is measuring a particular objective from the TEXES. We're measuring whether or not they can do a particular, or if we're able to measure them. And the only one that affords that measurement is C. Does everyone see that?
Yes.
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 But the other ones sound good too when you're thinking about them and you're not thinking of it from an assessment point of view. You're like, yeah, well, kind of like that. I could see how they might need to do that, but it's not going to be an objective. It might be something you cover, but not an objective. Okay. A reading teacher notices that students who raise their hand to contribute to teacher-led discussions are often the same and only students to supply an answer. Which of the following actions should the teacher take to best address this issue? So what is the question asking us, and what keywords and phrases are we paying attention to?
Students
That
that
the
raise their
teacher
hands.
notices that's the same students who speak up, basically.
So only a few students are talking. We have like a handful of kids who raise their hand and contribute. She notices that.
Mhm.
And so we want to best address these issues that only the same and only. So what can we do? Allowing students to give spontaneous responses instead of requiring them to raise their hands. B, providing students an appropriate amount of time to consider how to respond to the question asked. C, soliciting responses for more, it's supposed to say advanced students in the class who can set an example for the other students. D, praising students generously who correctly answer the questions to motivate the other students to participate. Now, we notice some students are not contributing and it's only the same ones. What's the best course of action for this teacher involved? What can we pretty safely say is not the right answer?
A.
Not A.
A. A is not the
A.
right answer.
Allowing students to give, what is the spontaneous responses? So they're just going to be shouting out answers at this point. So that's not the best way to increase other people's participations. In fact, that might diminish whatever burgeoning participation you had. What else could we get rid of?
C.
Did you say D?
C.
C, yeah, soliciting responses from only the more advanced, like absolutely not. We do not just assess or discuss or engage our advanced students. It's not about getting the right answer. It's about getting all students to get to the right answer. So we're left with B and D, providing students an appropriate amount of time to consider how to respond to the question, or praising students generously who correctly answer questions to motivate the other students to participate. Which do you think is best in order to get everyone to participate?
I would say D.
I
B.
think B as in boy.
B.
I would say D.
Okay, well,
Because
the correct answer actually is B. So
Ah.
and the wait time. So while this might encourage those who are already asking or answering questions to continue, what science has told us is that in group sort of discussions, if the instructor or the professor or the teacher increases the wait time after a question is asked, and I used to find new and creative ways to extend my wait time. Extend the wait time so that the students have enough time to work and think about a reasonable response. And then another way, a perfect follow-up, although it's not here, would be what would be a better way to choose students for response after the extended wait time. And that would be a random way of calling for kids. Like after you've extended the wait time, like maybe I asked the question, I put it on the board, they wrote their responses, they did a think, pair, share, and now I'm going to, with my popsicle sticks, pull someone's name, and that's how people are responding to the questions. And even in that format, or someone who necessarily volunteer or raise their hands to answer a question, they will have something to say because appropriate wait time was given to them. And then you add in a think, pair, share, no, they're going to give you a fantastic answer. So yes, D, although it's good to motivate those that are already answering, it's not going to be enough to provide the others with enough to answer, to change their course of action. We have a 5th grade, and let me check my class list really quickly.
So like on
Fifth-
that prior question,
Uh-huh.
the mere fact that when they put the advanced students, if it would have just been random students or all students, it would have been probably the more correct, right? Because it said advanced. If it would have just been solicited response in general or random from all students.
Still the best answer in any questions involving discussions and students lacking the ability to respond, even if it's ELL, even if it's special ed, extending a student's amount of time for them to respond to the question is always first and best practice.
Okay, good. All right.
Okay. I threw this one in here so we can have a little chat about special ed. A 5th grade math teacher is noticing that 2 of his special education students with learning disabilities are following along well during direct instruction and guided practice, but have difficulty during independent and homework activities. What should be the teacher's first step in helping the student comprehend assignments and activities? So, what is the question asking us? What keywords and phrases? What do we have to look at?
Special education student.
Special education students. And it is our job to know how to help these students and to be a supportive partner to the special ed teacher. So special ed, exactly. What else should we know about this student?
That they have difficulties during direct instructions. Independent practice and homework activities.
They're having
Independent
difficulty.
practice, homework activities. What else is important?
What should be the teacher's first step to help the students comprehend the assignments and activities?
First step, whenever they tell you first, second, or third, pay attention because that means there's multiple things you should be doing. When they say first, know that they possibly gave you more than one step that's correct. You just have to pick out the first one. So do we have everything that's important and highlighted from our scenario in question, or have we left anything unlooked at? All keywords and phrases highlighted?
5th grade.
5th grade, what else?
Learning disabilities.
Thank you. We have a student with learning disabilities. Okay. Student, learning disabilities, follows along in class, has difficulty independent and homework. What should be the teacher's first step in helping the student comprehend assignments and activities? Okay, let's take a look. A, reteach confusing concepts and skills. B, work in small groups to support needs. C, check IEP to ensure proper accommodations use. D, meet with special education teacher to discuss options. Now, let us eliminate those that we know do not address all of the specifics, the devil in the details that we found out here. So which would not be an appropriate first step with a special ed 5th grader who's having difficulties?
It's
A.
not B.
It's not A.
It's not A, reteach confusing concepts and skills.
Right.
I'm sure that has been done even for the general ed students, and it is not to date enough. And plus, the teacher is noticing that while he's there, everything in guided practice, all that good stuff, it's good. It's only when they're gone and in doing independent. So what else? So I heard somebody say B, that is correct. B is also not the correct answer. Why is B incorrect? And why can we bet ourselves $5?
Well,
Because, sorry, excuse me, it's only 2 of his students. And if you're putting them in small groups,
But that's
it
not
wouldn't
gonna
be
help for the
support that
homework
they
and the
need.
independent. It says
Right.
independent.
Right. They're independent already and they're at home, and that's also independent. And so having them get through these things, while possibly useful in some level, is not going to increase their independent math skills, right? So we're left with check IEP to ensure proper accommodations use, and D, meet with special education teacher to discuss options. So of these two, which do you want to make sure you have done first?
Check that.
B.
IEP.
See,
Absolutely. If you are a teacher and you have a special ed student and you have not read their IEP, oh my goodness.
Shame on you.
I don't even know what to say. First of all, it's against the law. And secondly, it's almost
Shame on
shocking exactly, shame on you. It's almost shocking how often I hear of teachers that either haven't read their IEP for their students and then wonder, why can't I get them to pass? Well, like, they have a literal disability. That's
Yeah.
like, giving someone with diabetes a baker's dozen of donuts and say, eat this, and say, I don't understand. Why couldn't they live? It was just a box of donuts. Like, you can't, it's not going to be possible, and it's setting them up for failure. So making sure, especially with math, especially with reading, because most of our learning disabilities really manifest themselves in those two areas most prominently, for sure. But you want to make sure that you are aware of all of the accommodations that are there to support and help your student, and that you are effectively and appropriately applying them. So that means if it says for your student that they need to use a calculator in class and on their exams, you can't be the teacher that says, well, all of my students learn to do mental math and I don't allow anyone, and they're just you don't get to make that decision. If the ARD decided and it's on the IEP, it is a legal document, and we are like literally breaking the law by not providing these things. So the first place you would look for sure is going to make sure maybe he doesn't have a calculator at home. I provide him with a calculator there. Maybe he doesn't have one at home, and that's why he's unable to do the homework and independent activities. Whatever the case may be, making sure that you are properly accommodating the special ed student to meet their particular needs. And many of our students have learning disabilities, but not all of them. There's different disabilities that we find throughout our classroom and different ways we can be supportive to them. So it's important to review those things. All right. Which of the following activities will best help students draw conclusions about the significance of a recent experiment? What is the question asking? It says best help, and we're looking for an activity. We're drawing conclusions. Okay. Sharing what they enjoyed most with another lab group. B, completing a teacher-prepared graphic organizer of the experimental setup. C, writing a summary of the lab procedures they followed. D, responding in writing to teacher prepared questions about the results. Now we are looking for an activity that would most help students draw conclusions about the recent experiment. So what can we say does not help draw conclusions?
A.
Let's see.
I don't think A would help.
Yeah, this is not going to help us draw conclusions about the significance of a recent experiment. What else? What else will not help the students? What do you have to do to draw conclusions?
Right.
Or reflect, write or reflect.
Mhm.
And you have to think about it a little bit, right?
Identify activities help students draw
So what else can we get rid of?
B, maybe? B?
Which
D?
one?
I'm thinking B as well.
Completing a yeah.
Oh, yeah. This teacher prepared graphic organizer of the experimental setup won't have them think about, I mean, they're just going to be plugging stuff into a graphic organizer, and that won't help them draw conclusions. We want for them to think about it.
Okay. Responded in writing to teacher prepared questions about the result. He said, which of the following table would best help students draw conclusion?
I think it would be D, wouldn't it?
We have writing a summary of lab procedures they followed and responding in writing to teacher prepared questions about the result. And we want to find the best activity that best helps students draw conclusions about
So
the significance.
So would it be C? Would
Yeah.
it be writing a summary?
Right. So writing the summary, having them write and reflecting on the different parts that the different procedures and what went on during that will help them reflect better on the conclusions of the experiments. Does everyone see how that works better?
Yes.
I mean, C could also be, but the best one is, I mean, D could also be. But
Yes,
the
you're right.
Yeah.
But C is better, correct?
Exactly.
The only
And
reason why I
the-
thought it was D was just because how it was questions about the results,
the results,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
which is the conclusions, and like the lab procedures, that's just how you did the experiment, not the conclusion of the
Yeah, it kind of throws
Yeah,
you off
but they're
because of
not
the change
asking about the
result.
conclusions. They're supposed to draw conclusions.
oh,
You know? Yeah,
Right.
Mhm.
It's tricky right there.
it really is. And
Tricky wording.
don't think that was a mistake. That was on purpose. They get paid a lot of money to be super, super tricky. Okay, let's take a look at this one. We have a 6th grade social studies teacher notices that his beginner English language learners are unwilling to participate in the group conversations. Which of the following strategies can the teacher use to help students discourse during content-specific group learning activities? Okay, let's break this down. What is it saying? What are we looking for? What keywords and phrases should we pay attention to?
6th grade social studies.
ELL.
Yeah, English language learners.
Absolutely. So 6th grade, and we have ELLs. What else? They're beginner, right?
They're unwilling to participate in group conversation.
Willing to participate.
Okay, which of the following strategies can the teacher use to help students discourse during, so what is students discourse?
Discourse. Can I Google that? Or is it just something you want me
I'm totally Googling it.
to? Okay. I didn't know if that was good. Where we
Is
could
that like
Google
group
it.
discussion?
Discourse.
It says language, both oral and written, used by teachers and students in the classroom for the purpose of communication.
Right, written and oral for the purpose of community. Discourse is just talking, right? See, speech.
Like group discussion, right?
Right, during discussion in these group activities, content specific group learning activities. So let's see what we could do to, or what options we have to best support these students. Provide ELL students with extra homework to prepare them for class discussions.
No.
B,
No.
yeah, I would say we can already say, I mean, we're gonna give each one due diligence and we're gonna like it, but I would say that was a that was
Oh,
like,
yeah, give them a lot of homework.
yeah, that'll make them learn. Okay. B, pair beginner students with an intermediate ELO students for all classroom activities. C, provide the beginner students with content-specific sentence stems to use for group discussions. D, allow beginner students to draw pictures to convey an idea to group discussions. Okay, we already said A was not it. Can somebody please tell me why this is not going to work?
Because that sounds like
Because
a punishment.
if they're already struggling, extra homework is not going to help them. It's going
Thank
to
you. It
discourage
would be
them.
a punishment even for native English speakers. If they already do not know the language and you gave them extra stuff just to look at hieroglyphics, essentially, it's going to accomplish nothing and it would not be the best course of action to support students so that they could actually, you know, participate in the discourse. Okay, so that's not it. We know that for sure. What else can we pretty confidently say is
Aquí
not?
todo el día, apenas se metió a bañar.
B.
Which one?
B,
I'm
B.
sorry.
B.
B,
B is
Why is
important.
being out?
You're not going, you're,
you don't,
Oh, close.
How
Yeah.
well is this intermediate student going to be supporting the beginner student?
they're not, I don't,
They can't. An intermediate student is still very young in their language learning journey. They are barely grabbing hold of basic interpersonal communication skills, the BICS. And so to put that on an intermediate student to be like the think, pair, share source of person that's supposed to like translate and get them to participate. No, we're not going to do that. That's not the way in which this is effective or works. Pairing. So B is out. We're left with C and D. Provide the beginner student with content specific sentence stems to use for group discussion or allow beginner students to draw pictures to convey an idea to group discussions. Now, let me remind you guys, our goal with ELL students always is not just that they can understand the content. They have two tasks always and every day to learn the content specific stuff and also acquire a second language. Which one of these two answer choices does both? Has them participate on content specific and help acquire a second language?
it seemed like C, because, with the group discussion, that's, you know, the, collaborating and talking with one another, that helps.
I
the
kind of like
vocabulary-
C as well.
the
C
vocabulary.
is the correct answer. Although sometimes students, beginner students draw things to get them to write, we provide and speak. We provide them with simple sentence stems that they can put in their ideas and contribute to oral and written dialogues. So C is the best answer, providing those sentence stems.
Now, if this would have been a first grade social studies or a first grader, would D be more appropriate? with the
Absolutely. If
pictures?
it was first grade, for sure.
Yes, yes,
Absolutely.
I was about to ask the same thing.
Absolutely.
Wow, so to
Okay,
drop-
guys, y'all
That's a
did
good-
really well.
that's-
That's what we're gonna end for today. Do I have any questions before we go?
No, we're good.
Remember, this is available for you in the PPR Google Drive. So if you want to look through those, and I'll be adding to them this week as well.
Okay.
You
Excellent.
want to
Thank you.
pre-test yourself and see how you did on Saturday.
Excellent. All right, sounds good.
So, Miss
Thank-
Stephanie, I did
Yes,
want
ma'am.
to keep you posted on, you know, my job interview that I had
Yes,
for
please tell me.
special ed. And well, so the principal hired me, but they wanted me to speak to HR beforehand to see what other qualifications I needed. And come to find out, I also need my EC through 6, my STR, and of course the PPR. So I still need those 3 exams. But the principal I went ahead and let the principal know what HR told me, but they hired me as an assistant for the SPED department. So once I finish all my exams, they will go ahead and hire me as a teacher there.
Excellent. Well, we'll get those done. I mean, I think I've sent you, and if not, I will, my EC through 6 and my STR playlists and those videos. And then, you know, just start focusing on one at a time. Start with the EC through 6. Because the STR is just like a more deep delve or deep dive into English language arts and reading. And so it's a good, if you pass the ELAR portion of EC6, you're in pretty good shape to pass the STR. But if you don't, then we need lots of work. So let's get started on that and you'll be fine by the end of the year. I'm not even before that.
Hopefully. I have my PPR test coming up on the 10th of next month. And then I'm going to be focusing on either one of those tests. I spoke to Mr. Villa, I believe, and he opened 240 tutoring for the EC through 6 and the STR. And oh my gosh, there is so many modules for the EC through 6.
I know, it's a lot. It really is.
So I just wanted to keep you posted on where I stand at this moment. So
okay, well, thank you for that, and let me know how I can help you in any way. And I will see you guys on Saturday.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. You take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Have a beautiful rest of your evening.
You too.
You too.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.